Hi, this is Amber King. Welcome to our first episode of Brave New Future. I would like to hope that you are all ready to and take this journey with us. I've got tonight Kelley Lane, and then we also have her daughter Abbey Lane later on. Welcome to the show, Kelley.
You're muted, Kelley.
Thank you, Amber, for having me. And thank you, Oz, for doing all the tech for the show.
Yeah, we've got this streamed out on several different platforms. Big shout out to Roar Media and Uphill Media, where we are live streaming tonight. Also wanted to get a shout out to one of our first donations on the show for Destiny McCarthy. Thank you so much for supporting our work. We hope you enjoy tonight and look forward to your participation, and let us know what we think. Let us know what you'd like to hear from us as we move forward. Obviously, right now, we wanted to start out with our, where in the world virus update we are. So we have, some interesting things to talk about tonight. There's been a lot of data. There's been a lot of pieces in the news. And some of the things that we saw today, just kind of had to do with, again, testing. We saw 3M shutting down outside sales. I'm personally concerned about sparking trade wars and, free trade of supplies and manufacturing when we start closing borders and making demands by the government. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. What are your thoughts on that, Kelley?
I honestly have been paying more attention to the medical side of this and the media's coverage of it, honestly. So those were, there were some charts that I saw today that kind of alarmed me about who was, adhering to the stay-at-home orders or not, and kind of why that is. So I think initially when this came out, I was not quite sure what to think. Like, is the media overhyping this? How serious is it? Is it really just at the same rate as the normal flu? And because so many of us have grown to not trust the media anymore, it's not just Trump supporters that are saying CNN sucks. So, I kind of didn't really know what to think of it. But, as you start watching and paying attention to the statistics of this, it is very scary. And, just earlier today, it was below 7,000, and now we're up to 7,392 deaths in the US so far. And we haven't reached the peak yet. So
no. Yeah, it seems, for Washington, I'm hoping that we've definitely slowed the curve. It's been kind of funny. The Seattle freeze is actually having an impact. That's always been talked about here. So it's, it's just one of those things.
Oh, that's the antisocial. Sorry, it took me for a second. I was thinking it was the weather, but right. It's okay. Gotcha.
People blame it on the weather, but no, it's usually just a tad bit of anti-socialism. And I think part of that is more because we tend to be more tech oriented in this area. And so we don't tend to hold on to events very well or show up and participate at certain times, but we'll easily, hop online and, be programming or doing things like that. But it's, it's just one of those things. We got our orders that they are shutting down Washington until May 4th at this point, which I found creepily reopening everything on the 5th of May for Cinco de Mayo. So we do have some awesome graphics. One of the things I know you and I talked about was that we'd like to discuss here is some of the different information out there on which states and which areas did have, shelter in place, kind of stay safe, stay home.
Yes, and I found something that it's from today, the 3rd, 6:15 p.m., which listed the states that still didn't have stay-at-home orders. So we can go over.
That's on slide 4, Oz. I was just going to mention.
I'm sorry, say
that we have a great graphic that we pulled up that shows all of those states
Oh, right. But I mean more updated. So this
Yeah.
first chart that I found was from March 27th, so a week ago.
Right.
And like, because I thought maybe it wasn't right because I'm in North Carolina and that isn't outlined there. But we went on stay-at-home orders on Monday, so that was what, the 30th. But we were talking earlier off camera about the southeast. My concern is the southeast here, and that maybe a lot of those states still didn't have those orders, but the list as it stands as a let's say 6 p.m. tonight was the ones that do not have stay-at-home orders are Arkansas, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, South Carolina, Utah, and Wyoming. So for the Southeast, it's just South Carolina.
Wow.
So I'm thinking that my theory, or at least the correlation that this map shows, there might be something to it because of that. But we can get into that in a bit if you want. If you wanted to talk more about the business side of things and the borders.
Yeah. It is curious because even just looking at, this list from last week, you see a heavy red line, kind of through that agricultural belt. One of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was how, how we keep our infrastructure going. But, when we see borders being closed, travel being limited, then I think, obviously we're going to see less disease. I know that we also have a little clip to play in a little bit, which part of the information that we had available on this was that how did we get this data? How are they knowing what people are doing? And that's because they're using cell phone data to track us. And that's if you don't have to have your location on, you don't have to have anything, special. You can have your phone off in your pocket, in your purse, in your car, and it is tracking your location. And so they are actively have been doing this for a long time, but now it's being used out in this pandemic situation, which to me is very important as far as, what I'm seeing as a destruction of our civil liberties. But it's also showing our connectedness and our interpersonal relationships. It's showing our travel and our business travel, which really hasn't, I don't think, fully been analyzed that I'm aware of. Do you know of anything?
I've just seen stuff about flights. It's kind of alarming how many flights are still going, even though there are 20 passengers on a plane. So no, I haven't really paid that much attention to travel.
Well, I would definitely say we have a very lovely clear skies here in the Pacific Northwest compared to our massive, plane infrastructure that's usually test flights and military and all forms in between, float planes. So it's kind of stark to have, one or two jets going by now. It's pretty.
Well, I went out on a walk today, and just locally, I mean, I'm right by UNC, University of North Carolina campus, and I have to say there were a lot of people out. I mean, the traffic, the cars in the area, and people out walking their dogs and stuff. I mean, it was only maybe a slight difference from normal. Now, that being said, I mean, it was Friday, 4:00, 4:30, but we do still have grocery stores and everything open. So it might have just been the timing, but I'm not seeing a big difference in that. Just kind of strange.
So do you feel like your traffic patterns are still the same then?
It seems like it, but it can't mean our malls have been closed. Retail things are 24-hour grocery stores are closing at 7 or 8. So you would think there would be less traffic, but maybe I was just out at a busy time today. But I mean, people were definitely keeping their distance and stuff, but
yeah, we definitely have less. I mean, our traffic's usually awful, and it's gone down to almost nothing here in the Pacific Northwest and Seattle. But we've also seen, like I saw Zulily was pandering to work from home sweatpants today. So
boy,
that was
we've got to market something off of this, right?
the stay home and shop, if you can get
Let's
it.
see how we capitalists can, capitalize on the virus situation.
Yeah.
Well,
Amazing.
do you want to dive into what I was sharing with you earlier about the map and my kind of theory?
Yeah, definitely.
On that?
And then we also have that video too that we can play.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that first?
Sure, we'll give Oz a minute to get everything ready, doing all of our technical things behind the curtain. Thank you again. You're the best. Whenever we're ready, we'll roll with this. But this is, this is real live cell phone data that they are showing. So whenever you're ready, Oz.
Okay, here you go.
We wanted to see the true footprint social gatherings like spring break beach crowds could really have on our society in the face of a global pandemic. To do so, we started with the big picture, powering our engine with billions of anonymized location data points from mobile devices across the globe. Using tectonics, we can then zoom in on specific regions. Here, we focus specifically on just one beach in Fort Lauderdale during the month of March. Again, each of these data points shown on the map corresponds to a unique mobile device active on a given day. You can see clearly that device activity spikes during the 2-week stretch of early to mid-March corresponding with spring break. No surprise. Now, using an analysis called a spider query, we can actually track movement of these devices over the remaining weeks of March, seeing where these devices went after spring breakers left the beach. As we zoom further and further out, it becomes clear just how massive the potential impact just one single beach gathering can have in spreading this virus across our nation. It can be hard for us to realize sometimes just how connected our world really is, until the data tells the stories that we just can't see.
So, I think are we back on, Oz? Okay. So I think the scary thing is, this is useful information for us when we've got this global pandemic, but it's, just like 9/11, what's going to happen in the aftermath of this, the government may, use to surveil us more. And that's really what the scary part of this is. That this kind of a situation might be then used to further those efforts of mass surveillance.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it is paramount to the new future that we're going to be facing. And so I've seen, just insane policies and things slipped into bills in DC. It's been kind of stark. And the, broader range of powers that not only like state and local governments are using in times of emergency, but also, worldwide. I think it's really going to change our lives forever. It feels like at this point.
And if you're very interested in this subject, I'm sure a lot of people that might be watching, or you guys have already read this, but the Surveillance Valley by Yasha Levine. I first heard of him through a podcast, but it's very interesting. Lots of information about how all of that started and how Silicon Valley is connected with our government and how all of that works. Kind of frightening.
Yeah, actually, one of the data links and tools that I have right now goes to Google API that has been mining voter information in all 50 states. But so our revolution is going to be hosting a mutual aid town hall tomorrow night on Uphill Media. I hope you guys can watch that. We're going to go through a bunch of different things. But one of the really important pieces is personal protective equipment, which has been in the news on how, the healthcare workers are not getting the equipment support, obviously underfunding our healthcare system as a whole for so many years and our health in general. Not surprising to see high numbers since we have one of the worst health, statistics in the world for a developed nation. But we spend plenty of money on it. So, there are tangible actions, though, that people can take. One of my friends wrote a great article. It was called, it's in MS Magazine, and there's a link in the rundown for you. But it was talking about kind of rebranding this, like, stay home, stay healthy. And that, because of the nature of this situation, people can't, people are going to lose their homes. People are unhealthy, and we're completely ignoring both of those two pieces. And I was hoping possibly we could start rebranding it into more of a stay connected and stay safe. We see not only, LGBTQ, racial discrimination in times of financial despair, and we are not seeing a lot of on the ground help for people. It's really bad. Today is the 3rd of April. We don't have a ton of clear leadership from the government as to who's going to see what. I don't know anybody with a claim for unemployment that's actually received a yes, you're good to go, or a dime yet, and people are trying to figure out how to pay their rent. So
right, and people I've seen on multiple state sites, they can't even get to it because there's so much traffic. It's crashing the website. So
it's crashing the websites. The employees are working from home to process them. It's a painful process, even in a perfect scenario, let alone, the millions of people that are now unemployed. But I've also seen employers, laying them off, or they're only on a suspended status, so then they're not eligible, or, for people who maybe were underemployed to begin with, and, they don't even qualify for unemployment. So they haven't really made this a scenario that actually helps working people. And so we see a lot of conversation about rent strike 2020. We see a lot of conversation about how to keep our workers safe and our immigrant communities safe during this time. We've still heard horrific bills about, medical bills coming out of this situation. So it's great to have free testing. A, if there's tests available. B, if there's a hospital bed when you're actually sick. And then also, it's great if there's actual aid to help working people. And now you've got low income, grocery store workers, and now they're, considered hazard, they're not getting hazard pay to work and bag your groceries and be exposed to all those people every day. It's really a shame. So I hope we can build stronger unions, stronger labor, stronger pieces to be able to rebuild the country in a different way. And I am seeing a lot of people being really creative in that, being able to, start gardens. I've got chickens coming. People are really kind of reprioritizing what matters in life. So that's important. But it's, it brings us to the state of things and where we're at and where we're seeing leadership in the country and where we're not. And that's
right.
been a really telling tale, I would say, especially during the election year.
Well, I guess so many more people are now using Zoom like we're doing and having meetings online and everything. Zoom would be a good topic to get into about what they've done recently and sending data and information to Facebook, even if you didn't have a Facebook account. I mean, I never assumed that anything I did on Zoom was actually private, but to learn that was kind of like, okay. They're really, we can't trust any of it. Unless you're completely off the grid, just assume anything you do or say is not private, I would say.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. It's our brave new future, and we're going to have to figure out how to navigate it. And
yeah, but it was kind of funny to see. I saw some tweets from media, the mainstream media people saying, "Oh, wow, isn't this cool? We're going to, report from home." And I'm thinking to myself, all of us, and all these other great independent media that we've been keeping up with for the last 3 years, at least 3+ years, we've already been doing that. Hello. But now we're going to have everything just flooded. I'm sure there's so much going on right now, but it's great that we have this avenue to talk. But, so do you want to go back to the map or?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about that, or we could go into some of the other rantings and ravings.
Okay.
This week.
Well, I guess I'll do. I'll do that part first. So I don't know if anybody knows I'm a fierce independent. I have never voted Republican. My first vote was for Ralph Nader. My last one was for Jill Stein. Voted for Democrats in between. But I have a strong interest in trying to find ways to, bridge the gap between, what I do with candidates with a contract, which is mainly Democrats, Greens, and a couple independents. But really what I try to do is stay on the issues and not, on the personality. So I'm always kind of trying desperately to do that. And so one of the things I don't suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. I don't like him. I wouldn't vote for him, but I also feel like, I see so much of I don't want to call them corporate fake left. It's just nonstop Trump derangement syndrome. So of course I heard that he had called, the headlines were Trump calls the coronavirus a hoax. And I thought, well, what did he actually say? Because we've seen this so many times, and even Trump's very simple, not too eloquent words can be twisted around, right, to mean something different. So I looked it up, and, basically, he said at a rally, and what was it, February 28th in South Carolina, he said that he compared the Democrats' criticism of his administration's response to the coronavirus outbreak to their efforts to impeach him, saying, "This is their new hoax." Well, obviously, that was very irresponsible and badly worded. Whether it was on purpose, who knows? But a lot of his supporters, I think, did. And you can see on the internet, on Twitter, there are people that think this is not real. They think it's a hoax, right? And I just got thinking about it more, and I thought, yeah, this is really something. I prefer to focus on if Trump does something, or whatever it is, if it's good or bad, focus on what he does instead of him as a personality, because we have to get away from that thinking with our candidates, whether it's Bernie or whoever. If we're just devoted to this personality, we're not willing to accept when they break away from what our core issues are, and we just blindly keep supporting them. It doesn't make any sense, right? So anyway, I just thought, well, this is a great great thing that I can actually come down on him about, because I think it was really dangerous. And obviously a lot of people didn't listen, and they think it is a hoax. That's how they took what he said, that the virus itself was a hoax. And when I saw this map today, I thought, oh, that's really scary, because the map shows, I don't know if we want to put it up again or not, Oz, but the map was showing travel activity within the US. And I thought it was very interesting, because when you zoom in, so I'm very familiar with the state of North Carolina. I'm not from here, but I've lived here now most of my life. And I know what the blue areas are, which is Asheville and Chapel Hill, where I am. And also, if you look even at other parts of the Southeast, Atlanta is very blue. So in those spots, if you zoom in, you don't have to zoom in, Oz, but if you zoom in on this map, you can see those are white. And those are the areas that aren't seeing a lot of travel. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because we know that the Southeast largely went for Trump, and there are a lot of his supporters there. And I wondered if, we can't say for sure, if maybe it's just a correlation, but if this reflected, his supporters not listening, not taking it seriously, that the virus was really a real thing, not a hoax, and that things are getting worse.
Well, I think you also have to look at the large evangelical base also. Mm-hmm. And that, they put Pence in charge, they're expecting him to pray it away.
Mm-hmm. So, right. The guy, the pastor
coming next. So,
right. I don't remember where that was. There was a pastor. I don't know if he was arrested, but he was insisting on holding church anyway. I don't remember.
I think that was in Florida. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, yes, it was Florida.
And they were one of the last states too to shut this down. And of course, mm-hmm. We're hearing the stories that, 200 students that chartered a plane for spring break, and now, right. Over half of them have it. One of the more interesting pieces too that I read this week was about they were actually talking about Mount Vernon, and there was a choir up there that held practice, and they weren't all sick. They, everybody was washing their hands, and they were met with, and this was a couple of weeks ago, 65 of them showed up. I think they're middle to not little higher on age, but not super elderly. 45 of them ended up testing positive.
Yikes.
So they definitely are thinking this is airborne. I mean,
right.
Imagine the process of singing, and you're getting the large breath and air out. But that was a huge number. They weren't super close. Nobody had any signs of illness. They were being very cautious. I mean, as far as people knew at that time a few weeks ago. But,
right.
It's just kind of a perfect case study of what.
Yeah. Well, look, so since the map, I don't know if I guess it's not still up on the stream, but so the map, if you mentioned Florida, you look at Florida, again, you've got where the panhandle is showing so much, that's Trump territory. Florida is like divided in half, blue and red. If you look at the southern part of Florida, they're following largely the stay-at-home orders. And look at the panhandle, they're not. And then if you look at the rest of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, they're not following the stay-at-home orders. So I think that's really dangerous, and that will be on his head. However, I want to say, of course the media will love this to go after him about it, but who is also to blame in that? The failure of our media for the past at least 3 years, probably longer, but at least 3 years to operate as the fourth estate, as it's supposed to practice real journalism, is what's led to this. People not trusting what they see on corporate news. And of course, we know that there's really good independent journalism. Just because it's on YouTube doesn't mean it's bad. We have great reporting from people like Jordan Sheridan, Status Quo, Kyle Kalinske. We've got a huge list of very reputable people, but there's also a lot of crazy stuff, right? And I think it's a situation where some people don't know who to trust. And I think our corporate media is to blame for that also, because they failed and they decided to push their side and practice, just opinion instead of giving people the facts. So just my 2 cents, but I think they're responsible too.
Yeah, definitely. I also bear huge responsibility on, the Bill Gateses of the world, who have been manipulating data and their privilege in so many places across the world, but especially here. If you look at any of the pandemic 201 exercises, and then all of the subsequent little meetings that they held for the last, they've been doing this for years and they spend a great deal of these meetings talking about how they're going to convince us to do the right thing or control us through the media. It's like, this is not talking about world health. This is talking about social media manipulation and how to control the narrative. And they're more concerned with that than they are having respirators, than having PPE, than having the funding so that people can get treatment and not come home with a $40,000 bill. And that's really the downfall of this entire system and why people are getting so upset about it. So I hope everybody, if you're interested in, checking out our show tomorrow night on mutual aid, learn the things that you can do, organizations that are trying to make a big difference in this situation. There's small things you can do from home for your neighborhood. There's large actions happening, which are international now. So we're on the front of all of it. It's going to be awesome. But part of your comments also made me think about somebody else in our independent media world who, what I would call, had a meltdown this week, and people were reacting very differently to it. So I thought maybe a little preface, and then Oz has that ready to share out to us. My take on it, I totally understand where he's coming from. I have a few different opinions on I guess the preface is Jimmy Dore had a major meltdown. As a comedian, as a showman, he's also stuck at home quarantining. So I'm sure that plays into it. But, we're just seeing a lot of this stuff playing out. Our conventions are getting pushed back until August. We've got states waiting until the last friggin' moment to push forward their elections and then trying to figure out how to do them differently. So there's it's mind blowing, honestly, what they're trying to do without any clear plan or guidance. And we are in a time of crisis. Bernie stepped up to the plate at some occasions, and sometimes he takes, he's too nice to take that route that I think probably Jimmy wanted him to. And so he had a little meltdown, and people are really reacting strong to it. What are some of your setups of this piece before we play it?
I am just very pleased to see. I am pretty hardcore on the subject. I think that it is way past time for us to insist that I'm a Dem exit person. I fully support anybody that has been continuing to support Bernie. I was a big Bernie supporter in 2016. I would never vote shame anyone. I think, good for you to try to reform it from within. I don't believe it will happen. Not as long as any member, anyone is within the Democratic Party and continues to say things like, I just had to do this, or, just making excuses and playing by their rules. I think unless you're going to really draw a line in the sand and say, this is it, we demand this, it's not going to change, because they are ultimately beholden to their corporate donors, and that's it. So I'm more in the Dem exit camp, and I have always really appreciated Jimmy Dore's willingness to just call it like it is. Doesn't care what so I appreciate it, and I think he's very right about what he said.
I guess this would be the point where I say, if there's small kids in the room, you can exit.
Right.
We're going for it. We know you're all stuck at home watching this with us, so enjoy.
Yeah, Jimmy's definitely got his passion on, but he's in pain having to say this. This is titled "Feckless Sanders Campaign Finally Listens to Jimmy Dore," and this is just an excerpt. It'll run a couple of minutes anyway. You'll get the idea.
Exists. And I'm going to tell those fucking pussies to start putting pressure on their leaders instead of apologizing for them and doing real journalism. And I'm going to put pressure on Bernie Sanders from now until the fucking day I die. And I'm going to put pressure on AOC and Ayanna Pressley and fucking Tulsi and every Monroe Khanna and every motherfucker who wants people to vote for them. I'm going to pressure the fuck out of them to stop rolling over for Nancy Pelosi and call her out. And if you want to keep pretending Bernie Sanders got something into that stimulus bill when he didn't, then thank you for the viewers. Go watch those people if you want to be lied to about Bernie Sanders. Go watch them. If you think there's heroes involved in the stimulus bill that are progressive, go watch the shows that tell you there's heroes, because there aren't any. Go watch them. But I'm going to fucking tell you the truth. And I'm going to get something done. I just got the fucking Bernie Sanders to fucking do something. He stopped. God fucking damn it. It's not that hard. Do you see how not hard it is? Do you see how everybody in his campaign is afraid of my text today? Do you see how it's not that hard?
Jimmy.
So the progressive media is not supposed to be a fucking fan club for our elected officials.
No kidding.
The progressive media is supposed to lead them because we're supposed to lead, and they'll follow because they're weak. At best, they're feckless. At worst, they're venal. And that's why we have to make them fear us. And that's fucking Chris Hedges. You got to make them fear you, and I'm done fucking sucking up to Bernie Sanders. And that motherfucker better fear us, and he better stand up and vote against shit, And if he's more afraid of getting pissed on by the media, he better be more afraid of getting pissed on by his fucking followers. Because the fucking campaign's over, and the time to get shit done is now. Organize workers, organize a rent strike, organize a mortgage strike, and do it fucking now. And he's starting to come around on his fucking timeline, and if everybody else would do it, we would get it there faster. Because guess what they were doing up until today? Fucking nothing. They're giving me emails telling me all the shit they got in the bill. Shame on you. You should have been motivating people to get into action immediately after they pass this bill. Fucking shame on you, Bernie, for sending fucking emails to my house. That's a little dramatic.
Where my family sleeps.
Where my children play with their toys.
Okay, well, you got the idea there, and we didn't have too many people drop off, just two. But again, I'll let you guys expand on that. I think he nailed it there, and I am still a Bernie follower. I always will. He set it down. I don't join this other than the truth. So you guys go for it.
Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and that's the thing. Like the people, I am a Bernie-crat. I am organizing. I am still active in the party, but I am helping push rent strike. We did an amazing show a couple days ago with Shama Swant, my dear friend Supression, and it was awesome. They have almost 1.8 million signatures onto the rentstrike2020.org right now. And I can't push it enough. We just have to have that understanding that you can't cancel people's mortgages or say the people who own houses are fine, but you renters, you're still going to get kicked out. You're still going to get higher fees. You're going to be in violation of the terms of your lease. So they're going to kick you out when your lease comes up for renewals or take you to court as soon as this is over. There's no relief for anybody. Nobody's getting any money to pay the rent that's due on the 5th, due a couple days ago. So it's really a big deal. We have to support people and we have to get motivated and figure out how to do this while we're all supposed to be staying at home. I saw an amazing thing also in LA. They were protesting to the mayor and drove around in cars honking. They went around City Hall. They went around and to his house with signs in the windows for hours honking. If we're going to have to protest socially distanced, damn it, we'll do it, and they need to understand that. And we need leadership at a national level from people who claim to be this progressive. We can't just, everybody's my friend Joe. And, even though nobody's going to vote for him, he has zero ground game, zero campaign, going to get his ass kicked against Trump. We're not buying that anymore. We're not just going to fall like lemmings.
The pitchforks are coming, even if they have to hang them out the car window. I think, the pitchforks are coming.
Yeah.
Sure. So I really actually want to get into something about that with the rent versus people that have a mortgage. I think because I've seen a lot of stuff, conversations on Twitter. But do we want to address kind of what Jimmy was saying? And I guess it's kind of really the part of the argument is the Dem exit or stay in and reform it argument. I think my opinion is it's past time to at least be organized to have a third option. I think we can still try to get the Democratic Party to reform, but I think they're showing again through this primary that it's not going to happen. So what are what are our efforts going to be going forward to organize for third party? Now, actually, I have a question about Jimmy Dore, and I was in the middle of moving, so I missed it. Does anyone know when Tulsi dropped out and backed Biden, what was Jimmy's response? Because I know he was a big supporter of hers. I missed that. I'm assuming he didn't go off like this. Thank you, Oz. Yes, please fill me in.
I'll just jump in real quick, and then Amber can take it from there. Jimmy actually interviewed Tulsi. It was quite an extensive interview. It ran 30 minutes, and for the first,
yes, I saw a bit of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
no. Yeah, it's it was actually, he was asking painful questions out of the gate to Tulsi, but he was maintaining his composure respectfully because they're friends. It's just like Tulsi's friends with Jimmy and Steph and Nico and the rest of them out there, but you could see in that interview how painful it was.
Just that one. I think I just saw a clip.
Yeah, I recommend people go to that interview, but it was painful, some of the questions, because it's the antithesis of what Jimmy Dore usually has on his platform, i.e. Tonight. And he let Tulsi have it in that little clip I showed, just along with Bernie and everybody else. So anyway, Amber, take it away.
Well, I'm a fan of taking over the ship pirate style rather than starting to build from the timbers. So that's why most of us who've been doing this work for the last 5-6 years have been doing it from within the party and without. And I honestly think the reason we're here today is because we were doing so well, because they're afraid of the pitchforks, because they're afraid of our power and our voices. And we've all found our voices. And so with this situation we are today, we've had a lot of those things tried to be taken away from us, but we're still organized. And that's what they didn't expect after 2016, is that we're all vetted still. We don't have, you can't just slip people in on us. We're like a family, and that doesn't just go away. And that's kind of the thing with this now. It's not stay home and stay healthy. It's stay connected and stay safe. Keep your community growing.
But as long as we keep playing by their rules under their tent. I'm sorry, Oz, I did actually, like I said, I saw part of that. I just wondered if Jimmy had any kind of a even similar rant about Tulsi, but maybe this has been kind of all building, but the clip I saw, he did look kind of like, painfully like not liking her answers. But he didn't have that kind of a reaction that we saw in this video now. But, a year ago, I've been a Tulsi supporter. I've been a Bernie supporter. But to me, it's about the issues. It's not about the candidate anyway. But I constantly brought up the fact that Tulsi had signed the pledge, and the DNC pledge says that, basically above all else, that I will uphold the welfare and success of the Democratic Party. And that is ultimately who I have pledged my allegiance to. So I thought all along that she would do what she did in supporting Joe Biden. And I saw online, there were a lot of people that were very upset by this, but surprised. And I think that she wasn't directly dishonest, but I feel like she led people to believe that she, by saying all these things, I'm anti, interventionist wars and all this stuff, but then to turn around and back Joe Biden, who clearly isn't. This is the game that we're playing. So whether it's Tulsi or Bernie, they're running in this party. They sign pledges to tell people, but they don't, announce it all the time, because why? They're raking in tons of money. And so the way I saw it was, here's Tulsi. What Green part did Howie Hawkins have a big, surge like we saw with Jill Stein this time? Last time? No, because Tulsi and Bernie sucked all the air, all the money, all the energy out of the progressive movement and put it into the Democratic Party. And I quite frankly was disgusted every time I got an email. We're this close to, we need more money so Tulsi can be in the debates. Why are we playing their game? Why? We've got the independent media. We've got Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kulinski, Nico, Jordan Sheridan. We've got all of these great people. And if you combined a network and had a media like conglomerate that backed all of these candidates, we don't need them. Let them block us out. Let them black us out, and they can show empty podiums while we're actually doing the work. But as long as we keep putting all this money and time and energy into losing, that's what we're doing. And then what does that do in the end? Because so many people end up pissed off and apathetic that they walk away and they give up. And I think that's also by design. They want people to say it's pointless, we can't win, and that's it. So that's where I am on
Well,
it.
yeah, writing on the wall, and really funny that you should mention that, because we've had that idea for a long time about a federated news network. And that is all of this independent news and media coming together in an unstoppable force. So that is absolutely happening. Shout out to our GoFundMe for the radio station. If anybody can donate, we're definitely looking forward to getting that out there. And especially seeing everybody stuck at home, radio is even more important, I think, and different modes of communication. I know I was playing, with walkie-talkie radios with my 9-year-old the other day, just getting her used to that, kind of older communication. But it's absolutely by design. I just kind of go into it with a half glass full. There is organizations working at reform and demands on the inside of the party, and you'll definitely hear more about that in the next coming days. But there's also a huge third party push as well. And, we are disgusted with the process. We absolutely know it is a club, it is a private club. You're not going to get through with it. Yeah. But even here in Washington State, we've been able to pass a really progressive platform. We just have no teeth in enforcing it because nobody who deals with the rules committees forces censure. And so that's part of some of the demands that can start happening. We can make inroads, but it's like, honestly, how long are we going to, are we going to wait till the rivers flood and the locusts come and we're on fire 100% before we actually have meaningful change? Like, we all know the importance of this. And, I watched Chris Hedges was on the Extinction Rebellion. The entire Truth Dig people are laid off right now. So I'm thinking there's a lot of you out there in media land, former reporters that are underemployed or unemployed right now. And I say we put the, boots to the ground. Let's get this federated media, connections made and solid so that we can go forward and keep speaking the truth, whether, it's unpleasant and hard for some people to hear, like Jimmy Dore, but damn it, it's the truth. And that's what's being eroded, along with our freedoms and privacy. There's still vermin supreme in the race. So third party option.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Free pony for everybody.
I even have concerns with, the third party issue. It's like, well, how do we prevent a third party from just becoming another money making machine that is run from the top down, right? So I don't know. I think it would be better if we could vote on the issues. But.
Well, or just, have a different voting system. I just think it's really naive for us to ever believe that we have a fair and just voting system, or that we haven't completely jumped in every single contentious race overseas for our own benefit.
Right.
Anytime you're counting anything on a computer, whether it's a paper ballot that you're electronically scanning, all of that data can be so easily manipulated. And you see Biden win by just this tiny bit. It's so suspicious to me when we're not holding our own, election exit poll results that have us interfere in other countries not being followed.
Right.
The whole process is just bullshit. And so we're going to call it out and we're going to keep going with it.
Yeah, I remember there was a petition to the UN in 2016 to please come investigate the US elections. And I don't know if I signed it. I don't know if it ever gained any traction, but yeah, we don't have free and fair elections. Just ask Tim Canova and, and many others. But he's the most vocal about it. As a matter of fact, now he's got a petition. I encourage anyone listening, please go to, I'm sure you follow Tim Canova on Twitter, but you'll find his petition to Trump to demand paper ballots. So, yeah.
But that's the thing. You have to hand count those paper ballots. We have paper ballots in Washington, but they are scanned by a machine.
Right. Yeah. defeats the purpose, really, because the scanners are really where
Most
my understanding. A lot of the problem is the central tabulators is where they can do the most rigging. So
and that most of the, counties are running with Windows 8 still.
right, because we don't have the money for that, right?
No, it's another piece like our healthcare system where we've just limped along just enough,
Right.
and now the shit hits the fan and we don't know what to do with ourselves. So it's,
Well, so
there are groups working on it, I guess is my point. We're working on the media, open
but
invite.
I think for regarding the whole Dem exit or not, debate, I think there've got to be ways for people that are still trying to work kind of within and force them to reform to build that, but build it in such a way that if you don't get somewhere with it, that you have an exit strategy. Like by all means, like keep trying to do that, but that you shouldn't just dissolve and it fail because it doesn't work within the party.
Well, and we still have wins. That's the thing. pdpq.org is who's working on some of those pieces. And it is very concerted effort. If we don't get changes and have this top-down oligarchy from Perez and people in Perez's position, especially, it's just like, oh, pay to play. So you get on the rules committee and you get on the credentials committee. And these people have no experience. There's no legitimate way. They're not represented, they're not fairly represented across the country. There's so many problems. And so, they just get, okay, what do I do now? Because I really know nothing of parliamentary procedure or how this works, but they get fed a line of this is the agenda and here we'll pass it. So they think they're doing really good work. But, it's not meaningful and it's not at all representative of everything.
Us.
Can you explain on PDPQ? PR? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I just went to. Did you say pdpq.org?
I did. It's PDPR. My apologies.
Oh, okay.
People for Democratic Party Reform.
Ah, right. Gotcha.
There's also lots of talk of third party. We are organized nationally, so it's not a one-off. It's not. I know a lot of people like myself did go green, and it's not quite that either. But it's a big piece of it, and it's absolutely issues based. Until the money's out of politics, we're going to see this kind of corruption, and we're not going to have free and fair elections.
Here's the problem I see with this, and I don't know if I dare open this can of worms. I've got my mostly Pacific Northwest audience probably right now, Uphill Media.
Unless they're completely off their time zones with
yeah, okay. Well, so this is within the Democratic Party. I mean, Democrat is such a bad word now to so many people, and we're looking at it's a country where we've got, I think it's 60 something percent now people consider themselves independent. And I think this is part of the problem also about reforming the Democratic Party. I believe that what we need to do is capture the independent voters, the people that don't vote, for one thing, which is the largest group, right? And I'm going to say something that's going to be shocking to a lot of people maybe, but almost 25%, I think it's 24% of Trump voters are not diehard Republicans. They're not evangelical Christian. They were simply anti-establishment, elite. And so, Trump ran on this populist message, right? And I fear that we're going to lose a lot of people that we could have if there was an independent party that could pull, there were 12% of Bernie supporters that ended up voting for Trump. I have to argue that I don't think most of those people are just racist, misogynistic pigs. I think it was just an anybody but Hillary kind of vote. Absolutely. And now it's anybody but Biden. So I guess I'm hopeful that there's a way, a third, option that would kind of bridge that gap, because when you strip away the labels and you strip away the parties and you just sit down with people and talk to them about what they want, most American families, we want the same things. We want to be able to afford to live, have housing, healthcare, and all of that. And the candidates with the contract that I work with, the main message is anti-corruption. And that's something, and getting money out of politics. And that's something that so many people on both sides agree. So the word progressive, you guys have heard me say this, is unfortunately poison now. And again, I understand the people that want to dig in their heels and say, I own this word, I'm going to, reclaim it. But it has been co-opted by the corporate Democrats to mean not progressive.
Absolutely.
And it has been
progressive.
Right, faux-aggressive. And it has been totally smeared by the right. I heard Tucker Carlson, 2 or so years ago, saying that word, saying progressive on the air. And there are people that aren't political like we are. They don't care about all this stuff. They just hear progressive and it's like on the right, it's socialist, and they're going to shut down. They're not going to listen to you. So I wonder how many progressives could be convinced to just still be progressive, but in the rhetoric, don't use the language is so important. It's like a George Lakoff. Hang on, where's his book? Yeah. Don't think of an elephant. And he talks a lot about how the Republicans really have a lock on language. And there were some recent articles that he wrote, more recent, about why, how Trump, commanded his audience. It was really juvenile, but, saying mini Mike and all this stuff. I mean, he has they have this way with language that we don't. And we've got to craft that in a way that's going to appeal to more people. But that's my spiel.
Well, we saw that playing out with the Obama Biden campaigns. They were out there parroting each other. It was absolutely creepy as I've ever seen. But that's just to be expected of where we are in this situation. So yeah, it's hard. I'm still committed to doing the work because I think I can still make a difference. And nationally, I'm frustrated as hell. I don't know what's going to happen. I still am curious how they're ever going to have an in-person convention, or what we're going to have a month and a half of a general election race. I mean,
so you mean you're still committed within the party?
I am, yes.
Yeah, and I don't think, to be clear, I don't think that should be an argument between those of us that don't and do. I mean,
Pat, Cody, libertarian friends.
Yeah, I don't. It's not worth all that infighting. I saw there was all this infighting between the Bernie and Tulsi supporters. I mean, come on, we all pretty much want the same things. It was just silly. So yeah, I hate to see that. I just think that we have to support each other in whichever way that whatever avenue we're gonna get there.
I think we just need a lot thicker skin to get through it and be impervious to the next round of attacks, because we know they come. We've seen the co-opting, we've seen the strategic actions to shut people out, and changes at the executive level to really ramp down on things. So it's just a matter of time. But starting from the ground up, third party, even with an organization that's organized and collective, is still gonna have a really hard go at it. And that's the problem with being at a time now.
Right. Though, no, that's true. I mean, I think we're looking at a much longer game. I mean, but okay, this 25% of people that supported Trump, where are they going to go after? I think Trump's going to win another term, but where are they going to go after that? Because that group is not Ted Cruz kind of Republicans or Mitt Romney Republicans. Those are people that were just fed up with the system. So where are they going to go?
Well, they're still going to be fed up with the system. I mean, that's part of this is we've had 30, 40 years of apathy. That's the tagline in the show is, breaking the chains, breaking the apathy that has got us into this situation. And now we have to figure out how we move forward, in this new reality of heavy data surveillance and mining. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to have to be really impacted before there's meaningful change. And I see that from this pandemic. I see that in the politics. It's going to really depend on our ability to stay connected, organized, and active throughout all these hardships. And, people not going back to work for a few months, it's going to get a lot harder. There's a lot less food on the shore, on the shelves. And we haven't really had that national conversation about what our food supply looks like, global security.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a frustrating one for me as somebody who comes from, a heavy food background, who's been fighting, this narrative that we're in this global food shortage, which has been totally wrong. But, exploiting workers at the same time, exploiting at the education system, pushing, making us the most unhealthy people on the planet at the most expensive cost at our healthcare system. So we have some reckoning, I think, before people are ready to get up. But I honestly, politically wise, feel like we should have yellow vest in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the apathy, I think, is definitely, I mean, the largest block of people are the non-voters. But if you could pull all the progressives and the real progressives, you pull all the real progressives and that 24% of people that voted for Trump that aren't racist, sexist people, but they're just anti-establishment, and you then pull together all of these non-voters, that's huge. That's really big. And yeah, there are a lot of obstacles to really forming a third party, but however it's done, those three groups, I think, could be a huge united force, united front. But
I agree. Well, thank you so much. We're actually now going to hop across the pond and talk to your daughter, Abbey.
Cool.
Oz is ready, but I think this is a good start to the conversation for episode 1, and I can't wait to see how things develop and what kind of decisions we come to in the next couple of weeks as far as moving forward and what our reality looks like.
Thank you, Amber and Oz.
Thanks, Kelley.
One.
Joining us now, we have Ms. Abbey Lane. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Still quarantined under incompetent government, as I'm sure you are as well. Not much different across the ocean.
Yes. Would you like to give a little introduction of yourself? Let people know who you are and where you are and what you're up to.
Right, so I'm Abbey, as Amber said, and I am a political science and journalism student at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland. So kind of right now I'm at an epicenter between UK incompetence as well as the Scottish independence undercurrent behind everything that's happening in Scotland, what's different between them. So there's a lot of animosity between a lot of different groups. But the good thing is that everyone that I've really talked to over here is kind of reached an agreement that what's happening right now with the NHS not being funded enough is kind of just putting everyone in a very difficult situation with coronavirus. So that's good.
So when did your the lockdown officially begin? And was it different than other parts of the UK?
Well, it was put in effect, I believe. I don't even remember what day it was.
Looks like we got a little echo there.
Oh, well. So I can do a little brief summary unless we can bring her back in.
Yeah, let me see what I can do about that echo.
Okay.
Go ahead and give a summary.
Sure. So a lot of the things we were talking about had to do with kind of the system in the UK. We know that Boris Johnson has tested positive, as well as one of his ministers. and they had him running out of like Downing Street the other day. It was a really kind of odd media moment. And they, in the same sense of Trump really not taking it seriously. I definitely view Trump and Boris as little peas in a pod, and they were not, they think it's just the flu, not a big deal. It's totally fine. And that just isn't the case. And so they've waited, at least a week or two longer before they shut down the quarantine stay in place orders. And so that's having an impact. And there's still a lot of young people over there that sound like they're not really taking it seriously, which is unfortunate. So I did read some information today too, that they are recommending people wear masks out in public of any sort, any kind. There are definitely better ways to make them from home. Certain types of N95 fabric. People are getting super creative with your vacuum filters as well. I know some friends that are making 3D printed ones that you can heat up with a hairdryer or a heat gun and then mold to your face. I also definitely recommend checking out the EPA list of approved chemicals to clean and sanitize. Vaporized hydrogen peroxide that's activated has been one of the best cleaning advice and chemicals that they're using as well.
Well, yeah, and I followed up on that lead about doctors hope 3D printed nasal swabs will help address the COVID testing in short supply. I hear they're having that in the UK. So the actual swabs that they use to test for the COVID is an issue, and people are using their 3D printers to help with that. So.
Yeah, and that's, again, this is going to be part of that bigger discussion tomorrow night on mutual aid, but there's so many ways that we can help and work on some of these pieces to really bring that conversation and ability to get our manufacturing back and support labor and support healthcare. We have huge pushes at a national and state level for universal single payer healthcare. WholeWashington.org is huge. And then, of course, Bernie and Pramila Jayapal's bills that are in the House and Senate. So it's time to really make these happen and bring them forward. And I hope we can do that very soon.
Shall we try Abbey again? See if I fix the sound, maybe? I hope. If I don't, we're going to have to move on and save that interview because it's a great interview. I don't know what happened with the sound, but my sound guru is not here, so you're stuck with Oz. So let's give it a shot, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. If it doesn't work, it's been over an hour or two, so we can let people move on to the next episode of Tiger King or whatever else is on your playlist.
Yeah, let's give it a try, and I'll give it a whirl here. It's going to take about 40 seconds, and then I'll know whether we're good or not.
All right. Awesome. You're the best.
I hope so.
Government, as I'm sure you are as well. Not much different across the ocean.
Yes. Would you like to give a little introduction of yourself? Let people know who you are and where you are and what you're up to.
Right, so I'm Abbey, Amber said, and I am a political science and journalism student at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland. So kind of right now I'm at an epicenter between UK incompetence as well as the Scottish independence undercurrent behind everything that's happening in Scotland, what's different there. So there's a lot of animosity between a lot of different groups. But the good thing is that everyone that I've really talked to over here is kind of, reached an agreement that what's happening right now with the NHS not being funded enough is kind of just putting everyone in a very difficult situation with coronavirus. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So when did your the lockdown officially begin? And was it different than other parts of the UK?
Well, it was put in effect, I believe. I don't even.
No worries. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us on our inaugural episode of The Brave New Future. We do hope you tune in to some of our upcoming shows the rest of the weekend. I think you'll really find some connections and continuations of these conversations as we move forward. I know Abbey did want to talk a lot about a great book she's reading, which I think is really important. And also definitely check out Candidates with a Contract if you can. But there is some amazing work being done on organizing for many levels of workers' rights, healthcare workers, PPE, and access, and helping homelessness, immigrants. There's lots of ways that we can really get this rolling here. One of Abby's favorite books, as I mentioned, was The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and it's by Shoshana, I'm going to mess up her name because it's really long, Zuboff. And she also has quite a few, she's a Harvard law professor, and she has quite a few videos also on YouTube. So definitely go check them out. There'll be a link in the rundown. Thank you all, and have a great night. I hope you can join us again in a couple weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Amber. I apologize for the sound glitch. People are saying in the chat that it was okay. And I don't know why, but I'm going to make sure because we're going to hear that next week, right?
Yeah, definitely. We can revisit parts of this. It's a great little interview that we were able to put together, and I hope to bring in some more friends from around the globe.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, shout out to Uphill Media and Oz and Franklin, who are helping assist behind the scenes and help us put some money in the bucket to help us get that radio station going in Oregon for us.
Good night.
Good night.